Okay, let's talk about my first PRS match. Okay, so first things first, this past Sunday, I went and did my very first attempt at a PRS match with a local group. Now, I got there and we'll just say I got very flustered and kind of overwhelmed trying to get everything set up and get into positions, run my Kestrel, figure all that out, and I totally forgot to set up my camera and try to get some actual footage, which was my entire plan. I carried my camera bag all the way up to where I was laying out my rifle bag and everything. And then at the end of the match, when I go to put my rifle back in the bag, I look right next to it and there's my camera bag, never even touched it. So that's my bad. I'm apologizing for that. We'll just say I am the kind of person that when I want to do something, I'm going to jump deep into it and just start swimming to the top, figuring out things as I go. So I told myself I wanted to learn how to do PRS. So I got my rifle all set up and did a little bit of practice on my own and decided instead of just keep practicing and hope I'm learning everything, I'm just going to go to a match and stumble my way through it. And that'll give me the best opportunity to figure out what I need to specifically work on in the future. So that was the plan, and so far as that went, mission accomplished. So I want to say there was about 10 or 11 people total. We split into two groups. I think there was 5 in my group and 5 or 6 in the other group. So one half started on the prone stages, and then I got put in the group that started on the positional stages. We'll just say that was obviously the hardest part, and that's where I get to jump in right at the beginning. So I get my rifle out of my bag, and first thing that I noticed was one of my screws on my bipod was almost coming out. So as everybody's getting set up on the first stage, I'm trying to find my socket set and get this bolt tightened back in. So I'm flustered already. I think I got my Kestrel, data set pretty good. The first stage, they called it barrels, and it was 8 shots, and there was a target at 300 and target at 395. So you had your rifle laid down on the ground, mag in, bolt back, ready to go, and you start standing up. They call start, and you jump down on it, take 2 shots at the 395, and then get up, and there's a barrel laid down long ways. So you rest on the round part and take 2 shots at the 300, get up, there's an upright barrel, prop up on that, 2 shots at 300, and then back down to the ground and 2 shots at the 395. Well, I took my first 2 shots and I was holding off on the wrong side for my wind, so I was just off to the left side and I needed to be holding off onto the right side. So I was flustered there. I went to re-engage and take a 3rd shot at it because I'm thinking pistol matches, your best 2 shots are what counts. So I was going to keep going and try to get my hits before I moved on. And they were like, no, move. So I'm very flustered this first stage. I get up, get a little bit stable, and I got 1 hit on the 300, and then got up, take my next ones, and I ran out of time. So I got 1 hit on the first stage, and then we moved to a tree. So they've got a tree lined up, and you're shooting from 4 different positions that are marked on the tree. One's like in the root cluster, and then 2 along a big branch, and then 1 for another like down lower to the ground. And on that one, we had a target at 275 and 450. So from each position, you take 1 shot at the 275, 1 shot at the 450, move positions, back at the near, then the far, move positions, near, far, move positions, near, far. So I got kind of settled. I was sitting down on the ground and I got pretty stable for the first 2 shots, and I got hits on both of those. And then I went to get up on the limb where I was standing and trying to get, splayed out and rested up behind it. And took me a while to get somewhat stable. I got a hit at the 275, and then I timed out, I believe, before the 450 shot. So got a couple hits on there, and found that, the bags I was using, not the best to prop up on a tree. So now I know what would be a better bag to use going forward for something like that. And then we go to the last of the positional stages. It was some big, like tractor, big truck tires, and they're kind of laying up, one on the ground and then two leaned up on it. So you got an angle here. And you have to shoot from the low side of one tire, high side of the other, low side, and then one right there in the center. And that one we had 2 targets at 381 and 600, similar to the tree. From each position, one at the 381, then second shot at 600, move position, 381, 600, etc. A lot of people were missing at the 600, I noticed, so my plan was to go a little slower and not try to make all of the positions, but just work on getting better hits this time. So I got set up, first position, got hit on the first one, hit at 600. I was excited. I was the first one I think hit from that side at the first position at the 600. So I hop up, get to the next position, get wiggled in, and got the 381, and then I got the 600 again. And then I moved over to the third position, and I was getting set up, and I ran out of time, which I was fine. I got 4 hits there, so I'm pretty happy with that. All right, so then all the people doing the prone stages, they got done, and we got all set up, laid down on the ground for 4 stages, all from the prone position. I'll admit at this point, something went wonky with my Kestrel, and as I'm pointing at the target straight in front of me, it was trying to say that my targets were at like 930 and my wind was at 430 or something. So it was trying to give me wind to go as if the wind was blowing from the left to the right, but it was blowing like from the back right to left towards in front of me. So it was coming from like a 430 position. It was, we'll just say it was kind of a mess. I ended up making a few changes in there and ended up fiddling with that so much. I was confident in the numbers that I was getting after I made a few manual adjustments. So anyways, we get started. The first stage was a spinner. So they had a spinner at 350 yards and then an IPSC at 650. So before you could go to the IPSC at 650, you had to make the spinner turn, and you could get 4 points on the spinner. And then if you spinned it in 4 or 3, you could take, if you spun it in 2, you could take 2 extra shots at the spinner and then move to the 650 and try to get the last 4. It was an 8-shot maximum. So I got it to spin a few times. I hadn't practiced a spinner besides pistol. So I ran through all my shots there. I got 4 hits on it, but my timing was off and I didn't get it to spin, so I didn't move on to the IPSC at 650. But I got 4 points out of it, so hey, I'll take it. The next stage they called IPSC and long. So we had IPSC targets at 650, 500, and 400, and you had to hit 2 on each. So 2 650, 2 at 500, 2 at 400, and then your last 2 shots for that stage were at the target at 1,050. So you're working farther into a closer position, and then to finish it off, a way farther shot. So I managed to get my hits on the 650, 500, 400, and right about the time I got my turret dialed for the 1050 and got in on it and dropped the bolt, I was seeing a lot of mirage, so I was spending too much time getting onto that target, and I ran out of time, so I didn't even take a shot at the 1,050 that day. So, but I got 6 points on that stage, so I was pretty happy with it. Next stage they called chaos. So this one was wild. There were 3 circle targets. First one's at 375 and is about, I'd say, chest to head height on me. Next one's at 475, is about probably knee height. So you could barely see it from there was, weeds on the ground, and they were right up covering like really part of the bottom of the circle. So you had to go from like head chest shot area down to a knee 100 yards further back, and then 100 yards further back from that, another one at about the same height. So 375, 475, 575. Now the trick on this one is you had to go closest to farthest, back to closest, back to farthest. So it'd be 375, 475, 575, 475, 375, 475, so you're working it back and forth, back and forth. To move on to the next one though, to get points scored, you have to hit the target. So, first shot, I got the 375, then I moved to the 475, and I missed that one, but I went on and moved to the 575, and I hit that one, but then they were saying, no, you gotta get the 475 first. So I had to go back to the 475 and re-engage that one. I got to hit on that one, then back to the 575, hit that one, then come back to the 475. And I think on that one, I ran out of time. It was a 45-second time limit, so half the time as all the other stages. So you're moving a lot faster. And I just ran out of time. I think I only got 3 counted points there. And then the last stage was it's like a KYL rack. So you've got bigger targets, and the next ones are progressively smaller in size. And that was at 300 yards. And then you had to claim that hit by going to a 500-yard target. So, you start with the bigger of the plates on the KYL rack, hit that, and then go and hit the 500-yard target, and then you can move on to the smaller one, hit that, and then go back to the 500, hit that, and then you can move on to the next smaller one. So I got the first shot at 300, moved to 500, got my hit there, came back, got the next smaller one, moved back to 500, got that hit, came back and got the next to smallest one. And then when I went to the 500 yard, I actually went to the 400 yard plate, and I was lobbing them just right over the top, and I ran out of time. So I got 5 total points on that stage, and then just ran out of time. So some of the things that I kind of picked up from this that I really need to work on, obviously the positional stuff. I have not really worked that at all, to be honest. So this is my first time really jumping in and trying it. Once I started getting a little feel for it, I was starting to do better at that last stage as opposed to the first 2. So a lot of work to do there. I really need to obviously pick up my speed so that I can make it through all the positions on the positional stuff. And I need to get better at faster, correct target acquisition, and then just, getting on target quickly, closing bolt, and taking that shot. So I've got a lot to work on. Obviously, changing targets that are at different distances and adjusting my turrets as I'm going. There's just a lot more process that I need to learn, but I had a lot of fun. We kind of compared scores at the end, and from what I was told, I probably finished around 5th place. One thing they didn't tell me before is that I was supposed to keep track of my own hits on this little paper here. So luckily I've got a really good memory, so I could think back through each stage and remember where I got my hits and where I got my misses. So I went back through, made all my notes, and we figured that I got somewhere between 22 and 25 hits. I'm saying I got like 22 or 23 to be safe. But that should have put me in 5th place overall. So, 4 people that were considerably better than me, and they were running it really fast, and they were over 33 points. So they were way far ahead. And then like everybody else, I think I was kind of in that group towards the top of that little group, it seems like. I mean, I don't know. We'll find out at the next one. So I'm definitely doing this some more. And now that I know what to work on, I've got some ideas to add some stuff to my range. Well, not really add stuff, but kind of rearrange some things. Found some dead trees that I'll use to set up some tree type barricades and make some stuff where I can work on all these movements and adjusting my scope, doing all the stuff quicker and on the clock. I will say another good thing about this is it seems like what I need the most work on is the kind of things that I can do dry fire. So, I can set up targets and get into position and get down and just dry fire my trigger. Like, I don't have to actually fire shots to practice the stuff that I need the most work on. Whenever I was able to get on target and squeeze off a good trigger pull, I was getting hits when I was on target, so I know my rifle does well, I know my scope does well, I know my data is pretty good, so my Kestrel is giving me good numbers. I just got to get better at acquiring the targets faster and pulling the trigger when I need to. And luckily I can work on all of that dry fire and not have to expend more ammo money. So that's always a plus. Well, that was how my first match went. I'm going to be rolling in some pictures, so hopefully you get a little bit of an idea of what it was like out there. It was fairly windy. We had 7 to 11, 12 mile an hour crosswinds. They were coming from all over the place. Actually, it was swirling all different directions throughout that morning. So it was tricky, I will admit, and I learned a ton of stuff that I would not have picked up if I had not just jumped into a match and gave it a try. So I'm very happy I did this. There will be more to come. I hope you stick around and see how I do in the future. I will be remembering to set up better and actually put my camera on the ground and actually record some of these stages next time. Well, I hope you liked hearing about how my first match went. If you got anything to add, please drop it in the comments down below. I'd really appreciate it if you'd like the video and subscribe, follow along as I get better and better at this. And we'll see how I do at the next match next month and then all the ones coming up after that. So I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for coming by, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye.